All right, I'm going to get straight to the point on this one. I'll leave all of the other pontifications for the other recording, but this feels like something I should get straight to the point on. The Vinicius Jr. situation's taken another turn, and I'm not talking about him being good or whatever. I'm talking about the more serious situation that has to do with just racism being thrown in his direction. Now I realize that I am a white dude, so this is not necessarily my forte or the situation that I am perhaps expected to or equipped to wade into. But I do feel like it's something that's happening in the game that's worth talking about, and I do feel like as somebody that talks about football or soccer, if I avoid it, then people aren't having important conversations around it in the first place. Because, like it or not, me and my forehead, we occupy an ever so small but important space in the talking about things department. That was very eloquently put. I know I'm waiting for my Pulitzer Prize, but in the meantime, what actually happened is that Vinicius Jr. was abused, like racially abused, verbally by the fans at the Valencia game. I believe I can't remember what it was honestly at this point, but it was a huge deal. It's not the first time or the only time this happened to Vinicius, but this was one of the particularly nasty ones where Valencia got really out of control, and three guys have actually gotten convicted of racially abusing Vinicius, and the three guys are 8-month prison sentence, and they also are of a 2-year stadium ban. Now, based on my understanding of tax avoidance laws in Spain, I don't think they actually have to serve the prison sentence. I think that any prison sentence, at least the way it was explained to me when Messi was given a year-long prison sentence in Spain that he obviously never served, is that prison sentences under 2 years in Spain don't get served. But I am, and this may come to a shock to you, not a legal expert in Spain. So I have no idea if they're actually going to serve these or not. I just feel like mentioning the fact that they might or probably won't be serving these prison sentences, but they have been convicted of racially abusing Vinicius. And this is good. This is a good thing. Anybody that pretends this isn't a good thing is just deciding that they want to, shoot off as many red flags as possible. Because this is something that has gotten way out of hand in the modern game. And there is some discourse around Vinicius in particular that I would like to kind of push back on, because it's what I see a lot. And there's this middle line that people attempt to walk, even though there isn't actually a middle line to walk on this sort of thing at all, where they'll say like, well, Vinicius is asking for it, right? Or they'll say that Vinicius is he's a magnet for it, or oh, they're just trying to mess with him, or he really it all whatever direction they're coming at it from, it boils down to Vinicius is asking for it. He's antagonistic, right? He is a lightning rod for this sort of stuff. The fans are just going to try and get under his skin and whatever. And I would have a response. I have a response to that. I have got my classic thought project here. Bear with me. Now, in medicine, there is a type of procedure where when you can't see the problem, you do your best to make the problem more noticeable, right? Like, let's say there is a disease, right? And it's in a particular area, but it's not big enough to be able to see it. Or it needs to get worse before it's picked up on tests, but it's already causing problems. Well, then you kind of inflame it a little bit so that you can see it and then excise it, right? And then either deal with the issue, cut it out, or whatever. I'm also not a doctor or a legal expert in Spain. We're collecting my anti-resume. And even if you're insinuating that Vinicius is somehow asking for it, that he is trying to become a lightning rod, that he is intentionally antagonistic, that he should just sit there and take this and ignore it because he's putting attention on it and he shouldn't be putting attention on it, I actually don't think that's true at all. I think even if he is doing all of those things, with the exception of the last bit, I think you should be putting attention on it. I think if he's inflaming it, he's doing the world a service. Because the more of these jackasses you can find, right, the more you can excise them and ban them from stadiums and make the world a better place. Because you know what? There were 100 people, that's a generous underestimation at that Valencia game, right, that were participating in this sort of stuff. Well, now you got 3 in jail. Well, those guys aren't going to do it again, right? And either they've learned their lesson to where they're going to allow society, they're going to allow society and culture to progress without trying to hold it back by just being idiots, or they genuinely learned a lesson and tried to see it from a different point of view because they realized that there was a pretty severe punishment on the end of doing that stupid stuff in the first place. Now, you don't need me to tell you, like, honestly, how many bad decisions have you made in your life if you do need me to tell you that you shouldn't judge somebody based off of the way that you look? This is why I'm a huge proponent of travel. This is why I love football or soccer, because people from all over the world, every country in the world, play the same sport, get between the same lines, play with the same rules, and everybody all over the world is able to compete at a high level at it. Like, it's, you know, it's very, very cool and refreshing and heartening to be able to watch that sort of thing happen, but also with the intense amount of globalization that creates when people don't understand other cultures, or they project what they read or they hear about other cultures onto those cultures or races or whatever word you want to use, right? I'm not trying to be exactly linguistically correct here. Then that just starts to create a bunch of problems. But to be perfectly honest, the moment this sort of stuff kind of started happening around Vinicius Jr., I'm over here like, dude, what do you want him to do? Right? It's not like anybody else on there are 5 to 6 people alive on the planet right now that understand the type of pressure that Vinicius Jr. is put under in these types of situations. So far be it from me or anybody else to pass judgment on how Vinicius Jr. is supposed to react. Because if we're honest with ourselves, 99.9% of the people watching this, walking through Walmart or whatever the equivalent is in your country, haven't got a fucking clue what it takes to be able to do this sort of thing. Now, I'm not trying to excuse all footballers' behavior all over the place, because this argument could be misconstrued as excusing every bit of every footballer's behavior anywhere in the world. But particularly about this, particularly about dealing with this type of pressure, with this type of derogatory, just asshole, mean, built-in, ingrained pressure just based off of the way you look. Right? Like, you know, if you're Neil Malpai and you're being an ass, right? Which I strongly encourage. I think Neil Malpai is fucking awesome, right? But if you are Neil Malpai and you're being an ass, and then the whole crowd gets really antagonized towards you, not in a racial or cultural way, right? But like, you know, just calling you an asshole, then I could accept that, like, well, yeah, he's cultivating that environment. But when you haven't even done anything to cultivate it, and I know the reason I made that other argument before this one is because just being black is not asking for it, all right? And then once you are subjected to that type of pressure because you're just being black, right? I think he's handled this better than the vast majority of human beings could ever possibly hope to handle it. He released a statement. He said, "Many asked me to ignore it. Many others said that my fight was in vain and that I should just play football." Which is a terrible argument. Like, how the hell are you supposed to progress? Is a society, like, how are you ever going to have the world that you want to have in the future if you just ignore things that are inconveniencing you? Like, if I get out of bed and stub my toe every day, I move whatever I'm stubbing my toe on. I don't know. I don't have any furniture, but if I did have furniture, I'd move it out of the damn way. Right? If I kept stubbing my toe on it every day. So what, you're just supposed to wake up and stub your toe on it every day? Because, well, the rest of everything else was okay. It's like, no, you moved the damn armoire. That's a piece of furniture, right? But anyways, as I've always said, I'm not a victim of racism. I am a tormentor of racists, which is a bar, by the way. The first criminal conviction in the history of Spain is not for me, it's for all black people. May other racists be afraid, ashamed, and hide in the shadows. Otherwise, I'll be here to collect. Thank you to La Liga and Real Madrid for helping with this historic conviction. More to come. That is genuinely a straight bar. That is a savagely well-handled statement about this whole situation. And I think that is another good way to approach it, that, like, you're not having a victim complex about it, right? Because that is an accusation that gets thrown around from the other side in these sorts of debates. It's not a debate, but these sorts of arguments, right? Where it'd be like, oh, well, you're just trying to be a victim. It's like, no, you're just trying to get these assholes out of here. Right? Like, if you're Vinicius Jr., you're just trying to play football in a world where the mean things that the crowd is yelling at you don't have to do with what you look like, right? Like don't have to do with your race, right? And who you are before you even start acting, right? Like, that shouldn't be too much to ask. It is. And then there's a bunch of people that jump on that bandwagon, obviously, because they feel like they're just trying to get under a player's skin, but they don't have 2 brain cells to rub together to realize that they're setting back society and culture miles, and they don't realize that they're making people uncomfortable in a way that they've never been made uncomfortable in their lives, even though the memes that they read on Facebook and whatever social media app they're on tell them that they're being victimized and they're being erased from the world. But the world's an incredibly complicated place, and life is tough, and in each country there are a million different questions being asked that seemingly nobody has the answer to. And every time I make a video talking about something that even tangentially has to do with this. I'm going to get a bunch of people trying to project whatever's happening in their country that has to do with immigration onto what they feel like I'm talking about. You sort that out. But I just feel like the baseline that I feel like we should all agree on, the one thing that should be entirely non-negotiable is we're all here. We've got to figure out a way to deal with each other without being assholes. We got to figure out a way to respect the base humanity and the base being of everyone. We've got to be able to figure the rest of that out. Now, the people that went to grad school to figure all this shit out, now they can go and figure all this shit out, right? I'm not here to solve the universe. I'm not trying to solve the universe. But this is good, and it's important to talk about because it's something that's pervasive in the game that I love, and I wish that it wasn't. And it's stuff like this that is going to make sure that it is not in the future. Hopefully sooner rather than later.